push for more visibility and opportunities. We are grateful to A3C for allowing us to be a part of this for the third consecutive year. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ryan, both Ryans, and the Gathering Spot, and everybody for this platform. So we hope that we can connect with some of you guys and that you take from our stories and our journey and really push this information back into your communities. Also, if you will use the hashtag Silence the Shame, if you feel so inclined to text or tweet or post. My name is Shanti Das. I'm the moderator for today. I'm the founder and executive director of Silence the Shame and also a OG veteran in the game. And thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate you all. And so I want to start to my left and have our panelists give a little bit background information in 1 minute or less.
Good morning, everybody. My name is D1. I am a rapper. I'm a hip-hop artist. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. Yeah, you already know, 504 in the building. Outside of that, I'm also a former middle school teacher. So before I even got in the rap game, I graduated college. I became a middle school teacher. That was my 9 to 5. I walked away from that and fully devoted myself to the hip-hop industry, and I've seen amazing, life-changing things happen. I've toured all over the world, been on songs, and just collaborated with some of the biggest artists that I grew up actually looking up to, but I've also dealt with depression while being in this music industry, and we'll get deeper into that, but that's what has me excited about this here today. I'm not speaking from something I can't relate to. I've legit dealt with depression and even been suicidal, while I've been in this hip-hop game. So thank you for your time and for your attendance. You heard me?
My name is Dr. April Stallworth. I am one of the resident clinicians with Silence the Shame. I've been in this career for almost 20 years now. Started off doing trauma and depression, and now part of what I do is teach other clinicians and try to make the field a little bit better for everybody, their experience better by working with other clinicians and teaching and training them. I am the vice president of services and programs for the Bobby Dodd Institute here in Atlanta. I also have a private practice.
Nice. I'm Chris Simon. I'm the CEO of an organization called BTSC Services, which is a mental health organization based in Maryland. One of the things that we do is we're a service provider. So we have over 200 and some staff, and we provide psychiatry, therapy, and support services to individuals throughout the state of Maryland. We have 4 facilities. Last year alone, we provided over 144,000 services to individuals. In addition to that, we provide educational platforms to be able to educate other professionals. I'm also a licensed professional, but then we also educate the community, and then we're also big into content creation to advance the conversation about mental health. We've executive produced 2 films. We've had a national mental health conference with Taraji P. Henson. We have several partnerships with the Baltimore Ravens and other very influential individuals to try to further and normalize the conversation about mental health.
And a little bit about my background and my story. I used to be head of marketing for a bunch of record companies, got my start working at LaFace Records in 1993, helped to break Outkast and Usher and TLC, even got to work with Prince. I worked my way up from intern to executive vice president, but I too have gone through my own depression. My dad took his own life when I was 7 months old. And my best friend took her own life 5 years ago, and then in 2015, I had serious suicidal ideation. But I got the help that I needed. I'm sitting here in front of you today. I chose life. I'm grateful to be here and to be able to share my story. So let's get right into this. And this is a rare moment that you're going to see me sitting right next to a Saints fan. Okay. We are in the A, brother. I just had to throw that out there because I am Falcons all day. But no, let's jump right into it. Okay. So this is the soundtrack of Mental Health Panel. And again, as I mentioned, it's our 3rd year being here. Yesterday was World Mental Health Day, and I want to dive right in. We all know that mental health, mental illness is still very taboo in our community, and especially in the entertainment business. We all have mental health, as I like to say, but we all may not have mental illness. Dr. Starworth and Chris, can you talk about why you think stigma is still so prevalent? And can you all share briefly what types of mental illnesses exist and their signs and symptoms? And in the interest of time, just kind of stick to like 1 minute for your answers.
Yeah. Well, I think the stigma part, we got to look at historical context, especially like in the African American community. One, healthcare was something that we never really talked about and that we didn't take seriously. We would use words like sugar for diabetes, and we didn't address, one, we come from a place where resources haven't always been available to us. So we've had to subsist and figure things out on our own. We didn't have insurance, so we didn't have adequate access to care, just as it relates to physical health. And then you add in mental health, that was something that, one, people in general are just catching on to be able to talk about. They act as if the head is not attached to the body, like the head is this separate entity that lives on its own, but it doesn't. But now people are beginning to talk more about mental health, but it's taken a while to get to the African American community. And in the African American community, we've been taught to self-soothe ourselves or to be quiet about it. Ever since slavery, there's never been an opportunity when we've been able to take care of ourselves and feel empathy or compassion for what it was that we've been going through. It's always been shut up and don't talk about it. You strong, you got to deal with it. There's nothing wrong with you, just whatever. Even in trauma that we experience in our own homes, there's a lot of sexual abuse that happens in our homes. There's violence in our neighborhoods, but we've been desensitized to the amount of times that it happens, and then we've been taught to just wipe your tears and just keep moving on. It'll be all right. We've been having to just keep push on and trucking on and never been able to address our emotions. So now when you begin to address your emotions, one, when you become cognizant that there is something wrong here. This is not normal behavior. And then I think the issue with that is that when people think about mental health, they think about these extremes of mental health. Mental health is if you feel anxious before you get up on the stage to perform in some capacity. If you had your heart broken, or you had a loss expectation, whether it's a relationship or opportunity that didn't pan out for you. Obviously, there's a difference between normal anxiety and clinical anxiety. There's diagnostic criteria that is needed to meet those specifications. However, we've been taught to not address those feelings. And when we have begun to think about, is it mental health, we think about these extremes. We're like, no. And we don't want to be labeled. When people think that, hey, when you get a diagnosis or something, that it's going to stick with you forever and it's going to impede you from potential opportunities.
I think also, stigma comes from self-preservation. A lot of times when something happens to your child, or you got something happen to you in your parents' home, if you got molested or abused, it makes them feel like, well, wait, I failed. And so they have to make you look like the bad guy. So I think a lot of times stigma comes out of self-preservation, the same way racism does, right? African Americans are stigmatized because of fear. And I think it comes out of lack of information, self-preservation, ignorance, but also we self-stigmatize ourselves, right? We have a habit of going, I don't want people to know that I have a diagnosis, or if I don't have a diagnosis, I don't want people to know that I'm feeling a certain way. And so typically when we're bullying someone, we don't know that we're bullying them, but it's because we have something missing in here, so we go out and we do it to other people, right? We make them feel bad. So I think that stigma really has a root in self-preservation. I also think that stigma is something that we throw onto other people, we transfer onto other people, and then also in the mental health community alone, little jokes that we make, well, girl, he crazy, he crazy. And then we start to come up with our own definitions of what we think crazy is. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a spectrum of mental illness. It doesn't mean that, like you said, that there's this extreme over here. If you break up with your boyfriend that's an adjustment disorder for a little while. You have to deal with that. This is my habit. I've had a habit of being with someone for this long. Now that situation has changed. Now I have to learn how to adjust to being single, adjust to being by myself, adjust to not having that person to bounce things back off of. So that's really where I believe that stigma comes from.
Thank you, Dr. Stallworth. I want to go to you next, D1. A lot of musicians, let me ask you this question. We know that a lot of athletes and musicians struggle, right? And a lot of them have started opening up and sharing on their platforms about their challenges. Have you ever suffered from depression? And if so, being a rapper or a Christian rapper, what have you, were you ever just taught to pray it away? And did you get the help that you needed from a clinician?
Okay, so I did suffer with depression. And it stemmed from wanting to make it in this industry so bad that became my God at one time.
Did you find yourself overly anxious?
Overly anxious. I found myself disappointed because I would compare myself to other people and I wasn't where they were. And I had, at the time, it was the biggest opportunity of my career. I was on the BET Hip Hop Awards, right? Got to rap in one of the cyphers. In my head, I had this whole plan of, oh man, once I rap in the cypher, I'm gonna kill it. After that, the whole world who didn't know me is gonna know me. Next thing you know, I'm gonna jump up to this next level. And it didn't pan out like that. I didn't feel like I put my best foot forward. And I would always go back in time and try to replay those moments leading up to it, thinking, what made me spit this, and why did I wear this, and why didn't I move my hands and do the rap hands like this? And you find yourself replaying this time over and over in your life for years afterwards. And now you look at where other people are in their career, and you're thinking, I could have been there, but I messed up my one shot, you know? And that's the rabbit hole that we fall into sometimes as artists, is we'll encapsulate all
Not
of
just
the
artists, executives,
artists,
entrepreneurs.
executives, we'll encapsulate all of these years of hard work that we've put in into one moment, and thinking that if we didn't deliver in that one moment, that was our one shot. And that's when you don't know what your anchor is in life, you know? So my anchor is God. For anyone who doesn't know, you know, my anchor is definitely God. And for me to understand that I don't serve a God who would make all of my hard work and my pure heart for why I'm in this industry all culminate into one BET cipher verse. You know, that's what I had to remind myself. But I couldn't remind myself that because when you're in depression, oftentimes you're blocking yourself from even being able to speak positively into your own spirit. It's all negative thoughts. So I did do one of the best things of my life. I went out and sought professional help from a therapist in New Orleans. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell anybody who worked with me, because I don't know one person who has ever gone to see a therapist. I don't know one person.
In your family
in
or
my
in your
family,
circle?
yeah, anybody personally. And we've dealt with having murders, Hurricane Katrina, which was a whole traumatic experience. But I don't know anyone who has ever gone to see a therapist. That was quote unquote reserved for crazy people, you know? And because of that, when I decided to go and see one, I didn't
Hold
tell
up.
anyone.
Can we clap for this man for breaking the cycle
Yeah.
in his family?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And a black man at that.
So at that point, the best thing therapy did, and that's why I'm smiling right now, the best thing it did for me is it just changed my perspective in terms of giving validation to why everything has happened. And I realized that if I was meant to not make it through, you know, my depressing era that I went through, then I wouldn't still be here. The fact that I'm still here, the fact that you're still here, I'm sure some people out here are dealing with depression right now. The fact that you are still here, you are literally blessed to be able to use what you've gone through and now relate to others who are going to come behind you and be going through that same thing. I wouldn't be on this panel if I hadn't made it successfully through depression. And I wouldn't be able to relate to you all. So that's what going to therapy helped me to do, is to change my perspective on why I've been through what I've been through. And it was way deeper than the BET cipher verse. That's what I had to realize, is this was stuff from childhood that I had never dealt with, and I had made success my God at one time in my life. And in this industry where everything is about followers and likes and are you verified and how much money you making, and you think you're doing good, well, this person doing twice as well as you. In this type of industry, this type of toxic environment, we have to make sure that we separate our stage name from our real name.
That's
so
right.
D1 is a rapper, and D1 is doing whatever he's doing. He's trying his best professionally, believe that. But David Augustine Jr. is a man that God created and put here on purpose.
Yes.
For a purpose. You feel
That's
me?
right.
So that's the main thing I learned.
Thank you for your testimony. I can relate to so much of what you're saying, brother. And it's funny how God will allow people to speak to you in the moment, right? And not to impose our faith on anyone, you know, whether you believe in the universe or whatever God you serve. Like, sometimes I feel like the work that we're doing, coming from the entertainment industry, right? I had the $500,000 a year career, the Range Rover and all of that, and now doing work in a more humbling way. sometimes I find myself going in the rabbit hole, scrolling and looking at all my other peers in music that's at the top of their game, and I'm like, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And I find myself getting detracted and distracted, from the noise on social media, and so I have to turn that off because I know this is the ministry, and hopefully my story of even considering suicide and wanting to kill myself, but I'm here and still standing, will move the needle, and I'm just grateful for that work. I know we only have 5 minutes left for one more question, then we're going to open it up because we believe in community conversations. We want you guys to be able to ask us questions in the last 15 minutes. So I want all of you guys to respond to this question. One of the things, you guys all have these postcards that we put together with Silence to Shame. I'm going to read one of the stats. It says musicians could be up to 3 times more likely to suffer from depression than the general public, according to new findings from the University of Westminster, the World Health Organization. Researchers found that 68.5% of musicians believe they had experienced depression, while 71.1% believe they had experienced anxiety and panic attacks, and that's from IQ Mag. We see so many creatives and musicians, people just in entertainment overall, going through it, right? And you see them acting out through other behaviors, or they're self-medicating and they're using drugs and marijuana, and we're not the drug police, but when you're using substance abuse as a form of a coping mechanism, that's a problem, because all you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it. I want you to just talk about the culture of the entertainment industry, self-medication, and the importance of people getting help when they need it. Whether you tell people or shout it out on social media or tell your homeboy, your family member, get the help that you need and stop, just putting a Band-Aid on through self-medicating and rapping about it and bragging about it, because that's not doing our young people or anybody in entertainment any good if you're not going to get to the root cause of the problem.
Well, you want
Okay. One thing I kind of want to just, not necessarily correct, but just say, self-medicating, I don't believe it's a Band-Aid. Self-medicating is actually a coping mechanism. It is a maladaptive coping mechanism, but it is a coping mechanism. And people do that because they're trying to survive. And so I don't want to stigmatize people who say, well, I'm going to drink so I can survive, but it's how do we help you find a healthier coping mechanism so you can survive. But it is because I don't have the help or I don't have the information, I'm going to use what I have, and that's alcohol or drugs. But I think also when you look at that, creatives in general, their IQs are a little different than the rest of the population. And so the more they create, they go into different places, they do a lot of research, they get a lot more information, their intellect changes. And then when you start realizing that the rest of the world around you hasn't changed, the rest of the world around you isn't going where you're going, and you continue to grow, you're continuing to expand, and you start to get depressed or you start to get anxious because you realize, I'm here by myself. I'm doing this by myself. But in the entertainment industry, we've created, and there's a whole industry just based around what I think about you. That's it. What someone else thinks about you. And if you're not rooted and grounded, and that's all therapy is, we don't descend out of the ceiling wearing black cloaks and fix things, All it is we help realign you to what you are, who you are, that's all we do. We just bring you back, hey, you, come back here. You're way over there. Come back here, baby. I love you, but come on back, and it's realigning, because if not, like you said, we can create, even some therapists, if we're not careful, we will create, I fixed you. I have made you. I am the reason. We'll do that if we're not being realigned. That's why therapists need therapists. So, so just to say that, I really think that in this field, in this entertainment industry, and creatives in general, they really do think of the world very differently. And so, they're in the entertainment industry, you guys have handlers. Well, you have to have, some of those handlers, unfortunately, they're psychologists too. They're just not licensed psychologists, and they're psychologizing you. They're changing your mind to make you think that you are D1. Versus Dave, Augustine. That's what their job is. So you have to have someone on the outside, like your mom or somebody has to say, come here.
That's right.
Because if not, you will align yourself with a whole lie, and living the lie is what breaks you down.
Thank you, Dr. Stallworth. Preach,
Yeah.
Chris.
I think that, like she said, when you're an artist, you create, and when you to create on that level, you go into like this hypomanic type of stage where you're just overly creative and just in this space. And it's great for creativity, However, after you've created and you're outside of that creative process, you have to you have to come back down. And it's hard to come back down when you've been living at this high for so long. In addition to, and then when you come back, it's like I was just talking about when I was talking to Taraji P. Henson, and I was talking about the different roles that she has to get into, and how you have to get into character, and how you have to believe this. But then when you go to the grocery market, you're Taraji. You're not, you're not yelling Jody outside at people. You can't do these things. You're the Joker. You have to get in a role, but then you also have to go home and be a responsible husband that has kids, that you have to raise your family and stuff like that. But then there's also this expectation in the music industry. One, expectation about you're as good as your last project, and then you're trying to meet these expectations, one, for public persona, but then also for financial benefits as well. And if you have a whole team of individuals that are relying on you to be at your best of your game. That's why you have the hype man hyping you up to make sure that you can deliver at that. And then when you feel like I'm in a position where I can't deliver like that, that pressure starts to, the outside public starts to judge you. Like he said, people start judging what he had on. I'm guessing that people was like, why did you have this on? You should have looked more like a thug versus a preacher or something like that. And I didn't see it, so I didn't know if you look like a preacher or not. But judging from today, I think you should be all right. But literally, it's this expectation of what you should do and what you should be. And then, you have to look at how do I live up to these expectations, and then get out of character. And then it's tough being able to self-manage.
Thank you, Chris. D1?
What's the question again?
About self-medicating and being able to find healthier coping mechanisms as an artist.
Of course. Y'all know what the snooze button is on an alarm clock, right? So self-medicating, that's just like hitting the snooze button. Eventually, you're going to have to wake up and face reality. You can't hit snooze forever. You cannot hit snooze forever. And unfortunately, hitting the snooze button metaphorically has been normalized in this industry and made to be like, no, that is how you cope with it. Matter of fact, keep hitting it forever. But as we know, you can't. You know what I'm saying? Money cannot buy happiness either. So not only self-medicating, but just achievement. Ask Robin Williams. Ask all the other people who we see were at the top of their game from our perspective. But from their perspective, there was obviously a lot that they weren't at peace with in their lives, And I think one thing that we should all have, because of understanding self-medication and just what other people are using to cope with depression, is this: empathy for others.
Yes.
Empathy,
yes.
I'll tell you this, and this is putting too much of my business out there, but I know that God doesn't make mistakes. There's somebody right now in my hometown who, for whatever reason, the success that I've been blessed with lately that's been coming my way is very, very, very mad and upset about that. This is another person who has a public platform, who's an artist. And randomly, I wanted to kind of confront these issues that this person had with me. And I was on Instagram. So I was on Instagram Live. I saw him in my comments, cursing me out as usual, like doing crazy stuff. I said, you know what? Let me invite this person into my screen, because we never met. Let me talk to them. When they feel my spirit, feel my love, maybe we'll see what's up. When I clicked on their name and they came in, instantly cursing me out. I'm talking about every curse word in the book going off. The thing is, by me looking at this brother, I'm being cursed out in front of hundreds of my fans that are on my live at the time. And I'm listening to him, and I'm looking at him, and I could tell that he has some issues up here. And it's empathy that I have. I wasn't angry. I wasn't embarrassed, feeling like I'm a rapper too. I gotta, my pride gotta make me come back at you and meet fire with fire. I had empathy towards him, and I was able to sit there getting cursed out and say, brother, I got nothing but love for you, bro. And regardless of what it is, I'm actually gonna pray for you, dog, and I mean that. And I got love for you, because I know it's something way deeper that he's dealing with. The empathy that we're able to have for people, it's only because we've been there before as well. So judging another person, or even having a knee-jerk reaction to a person who's dealing with mental health issues, should never be the case when we've been there. And I'm thankful I've been there, because I would be tempted to go ahead on and meet fire with fire if it wasn't for what I've been through. You feel me?
Thank you. I'm so thankful for your testimony and your walk. We're going to open up now for Q&A, because we have a little bit, about 12 or 13 minutes left. So do we have a mic for the audience, or should we just use one of ours? Okay. And just please limit your questions in the interest of time.
Okay. Hi, my name's Kasia Ma'atafali. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. I have a really cool experience with this intersection of art and agriculture, so it's really cool to be here and see you all come from the heart with your experiences and your words. So my question is, with the way that mainstream hip hop is fed to the public, how do we as creators, as like godlike people, as gods, how do we bring our word and our energy and our truth to community in a way where they'll like pick up on it, where they'll like see us and desire that same freedom and that same like, oh, I'm not trapped in this.
Thank you for your question. D1?
Thank you.
Of course. I make sure I smile a lot. I make sure I smile extra big and extra bright, and not in a forced way, but in an authentic way. It's not normalized to smile as a rapper. But I figured that when I'm around rappers and they see, like, this dude D definitely has joy, and his joy, D ain't never went platinum, you know what I'm saying? But D is, like, D has a sense of peace and joy that comes from something that record sales or streams can't buy. What
Hold
that
up.
does, yeah.
Sense of peace.
Yes, oh, yes, yes.
Y'all don't know how, like, peace, my friend Sherry Rowley coined this new term, the peace is the new success. You need that in this business.
Yes.
Go ahead,
yes.
I'm sorry.
So when you have that peace, first off, and when you can display that peace amongst these peers that you're speaking about in this industry, it makes people curious. And I'm so thankful that I get opportunities to have convos off the record with artists, with executives who are curious about where does that come from, because they have the $500,000 salaries and they have the huge, fanfare that we quote unquote attribute to being successful, but a lot of them don't have peace. So they have to see it in you. And I know this from being a former middle school teacher. When a student can tell that you love them, when they know that you love them, at that point, you automatically are gonna command their respect, because deep down they know, like, yo, Miss such and such or Mr. Augustine loves me. So at the least I could do is respect him. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say, is display and exhibit that peace that you truly have flowing from you, and that's going to be the biggest megaphone that you could ever use to announce who you are and what you stand for.
And the last thing I'll add, and we'll go to the next question, is come from a place of humility. Like, that's the one thing that I feel like has saved me in this business. Whether I was Shanti Das, EVP of Motown, Shanti Das from LaFace, I'm still Shanti Das. Don't none of that shit matter. At the end of the day, so if somebody gonna come up to me and speak to me and introduce themselves, I owe them the respect to say hello, thank you for following my movement, or thank you for supporting my artists. So thank you for supporting my music. Thank y'all for being here today. Again, like, y'all didn't have to be here. Just remain humble and appreciate the blessings that you get, and it'll come. What is for you is for me. I mean, it's for you. And I find myself struggling with that a lot. And I agree that, but what I'm saying is, like, sometimes I feel like I struggle looking at everybody else and wanting to be where they're at, and I have to be at peace with where I am in the moment and where God has placed me. Yes, the blessing should be for everyone, but on that journey to that, you got to be okay with where you're at in that moment and continue to be humble and grow, but you got to work hard too. I said this in the Revolt conference, you got to do the work. That part hasn't changed.
And by show of hands, how many people struggle with that, like comparing yourself to others? Anybody else compare yourself to others?
And if you ain't got your hand up, you lying.
Yeah, if you ain't got your hand up, you lying. Yeah,
at least once in your life, you done looked at somebody's timeline like,
Shanti, can I speak to that real quick?
Yeah, and then we got real
What
quick.
I'd like to say about that, one, having that honesty to be able to raise your hands to admit that, you know what I'm saying? But what I always like to say, and because it does impact your mental health, is that your race is your race, it's a book. And you cannot compare your appendix to somebody else's, your table of contents to somebody else's appendix. They once started the book the same place in the same chapter that you were on. So if you try to compare your table of contents to their appendix, you're going to have a misrepresentation of what success looks like. And Instagram and social media exacerbates that, because it gives you this idea of Insta, and Insta is bullshit, for the lack of better words. It's bull, because nothing happens insta. It's a process, and you got to go along your process and go along your road, and what happens for you, it happens in this season, and you have to prepare for your season.
We got time for maybe 2 more questions right here and then right here.
So, first of all, I just want to tell y'all, thank y'all. I think it takes a lot of courage to be this vulnerable. So, I have a comment and a question. You, right here, you spoke to my spirit. Like, you know, just getting a little bit of your story, like you saying that helps people like me do what I gotta do, right? So my question is, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a Reiki practitioner. And my purpose and my passion is to collide music and healing together. I know that there's a stigma against therapy, like y'all were saying, but there's an even bigger stigma against Reiki. Have any of y'all heard of
what?
that? Reiki?
Oh,
Have you ever heard of it? Do you mind if I pass y'all a flyer to give y'all a definition?
well, yeah, we, in the interest
Yeah,
of time,
I
though,
can tell
we could
you.
do it afterwards, but just give us a brief
that's fine. I'll
description.
give
Yeah,
y'all that.
okay,
But
yeah.
basically, it's just a Japanese healing technique that basically kickstarts your body's natural ability to heal itself.
Okay.
So I feel like it's something that could add on to people's coping mechanisms.
Oh, that'd be great.
And what I want to do is I want to touch artists just like y'all are. And my question is, how would somebody like me be able to partner up with people like you to help our community?
Well, first one, you showed up today, right? And so I got a business card. I'll give you my digits. We start today. You know, each one teach one. You know, we got to be able to reach back in and help. And if you want to help people, I want to help you. So it starts with one person, and then you utilize the opportunity to go up and introduce yourself to people while you're here at the conference, network, put your message out there, be really intentional about how you post your message on social media, be very thoughtful about your posts, and people will start following, right? So just stay true to it, and you know, you got a partner right here, so let's start today.
Just one thing, y'all were talking about how the universe works. I didn't even know that this panel existed. The only reason I came to A3C was to meet T.I. I love him.
Shout out to T.I.
That's who I want. I want to do Reiki on
You
T.I.
came for T.I.
So you're getting blessed twice. How about that?
So, you know, but when I was looking at the lineup, I saw y'all. I'm not an early morning person. I got up because I wanted to be here with y'all. So I
Yes,
appreciate y'all.
thank
Amen.
you. Thank you. And we actually have a little bit more time, I was just told. So next question, right here, this young man.
What's going on? My name is Days. I'm 22 years old. I'm a producer and engineer. So with that being said, you know, I'm around the studio all the time, and I'm dealing with different artists who do drugs and alcohol and other drugs. And, you know, there's a lot of peer pressure that comes with that, and there's a lot of influence with that. But D1 is actually the reason why I don't smoke or drink or indulge in that kind of stuff. And a lot of people respect me, you know, that I don't. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Shanti,
You want to say
I
something,
want
April?
to just say something, you know, that
I'm sorry,
you guys,
Dr.
this
Stallworth.
kind of, you guys hear, you know, there's something that they've been the theme that's running through, and, you know, you have to be rooted and grounded in who you are, right? These artists that you guys keep talking about, they didn't come into the industry and just start drinking. You understand? There was trauma. There's trauma, and these things come with them, right? So they brought all of who they were into the industry. It's just you met all of who they were. So when you guys, you know, when you are saying, like when he's saying the rap, the creativity, what's in him, he brought that to the industry. So just because executive Mike says, well, this week you're not blah, blah, blah. No, I brought this. So when I go, this anointing, this creativity, these bars, everything that I am, it goes with me. Just because it's not the method of the month doesn't mean that it didn't come with me. So I'm Dr. Stallworth, right? This brain, whatever I have, this gift that I have, it goes with me wherever I go. Just because you don't like me, that's your loss. Do you understand what I'm saying? So part of that is really being as parents, as peers, you know, you have to have a hype man. You have to have someone be like, you great, you awesome, you this, you that, you amazing. Because if not, no one thinks like that. No one sits in their house all night and just does that. That's weird. No one does that, right? So you have to have somebody in your life, just like you have to have someone else. You know, you have to have that other part of you that says, you're April. Before you were Dr. Stallworth, you are April. You knew this stuff because you lived it. You became a psychologist because you've been there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I just want to just impart that to you, that who you are is, you bring that with you. Your creativity, that was put in you long before you arrived there. That production gift that you got, whatever that gift is, that was who you brought there. You just met who they brought there. This is who I am. So you know, that's a powerful thing. You stay that way. I am me, regardless of how many shots you take, what you do, who you screw, where you go. I am me. You go do you, homie. But this is who I am, no matter what.
Yes, yes, yes. We having church on a Friday morning. I love it. I love it. Next question. Next question. Where's the mic?
Hey,
I'm sorry, the lights. Okay.
hey, Shanti. This is Shy,
Hey, hey.
owner of Strictly Stack and StrictlyHipHop.com. I used to work with Shanti back in the days when I used to intern for them, for Universal Records and all that. So this is a very important topic as far as like mental health and all that, because I actually left the internship because I ended up in a psych ward. You know what I'm saying? I was young, getting a lot of money in the streets, doing a lot of different things, college, everything. So, you know, it was like just balancing all of that is not easy, you know what I'm saying? So I don't really even have a question because my career is going already, you know what I mean? So my main thing is more just letting you guys know that take your time. Like when I came back from the hospital, I tried to continue to work. She seen I was a beast, but she's like, yo, Shy, listen, take the time to, you know what I mean, get your health right. It's not even about you not being able to still work with us because the opportunities is not gonna stop. But we just I had to really, you know what I mean? It's a serious thing because mental health, I was in a psych ward for 2 weeks. Sometimes people don't even bounce back from that. So, you know what I mean? Ask her, she'll tell you. You know what I mean? I was young, I was moving fast, but I always had respect, always was loving, caring, you know what I mean? And things of that nature. So I just wanted to tell y'all guys my story. And now I'm 35 years old, owner Strictly Stacking Records, owner StrictlyHipHop.com. You know what I'm saying? So the sky's the limit.
I'm so proud
you know
of
what I'm
you right now.
saying? The sky's the limit.
Shanti.
You know what I'm saying?
Shanti,
Thank you for sharing.
Shanti, can I speak to
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
I just want to speak to something that he said, and I think that this is consistent with a lot of, you guys have robust schedules, right? People here want to be a part of the music industry and stuff like that. One suggestion that I would give is because we have these robust schedules, we're in the studio, we're out the studio, we go back to the studio, right? What I would say is that make sure, we talked about this yesterday, make sure that you make time for yourself. And people are like, how am I going to make time for myself when I'm working 3 jobs and then I'm trying to rap and then I got to be with my kids? You got to find small pockets of time. So whether you can't take 2 hours throughout your day to do it, but if you can take 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, and be fully present and aware in those 15 minutes. Because what I found with my kids, me being available 15 minutes with my kids fully is way better than me being there in the body but not emotionally for 2 hours. And I also have to not only be there for my kids with that 10 minutes, be there with my wife for that 10 minutes, but then I need 10 minutes for myself. When I can just process what's going on with me, I can utilize my breathing techniques, taking a big deep breath in my nose and breathing it out. That helps cool me down and puts me in a place where I can think. So build pockets of time for yourself.
Thank you, Chris. You guys all have also these cards that I passed out. So Sounds of Shame, we put together some self-care tips. And so something as simple, to Chris's point, making time for yourself. Like for me, you know, we all have some kind of Google Calendar or some kind of app that helps us keep up with our schedule. I actually set up appointments with myself. So if I got 2 meetings back to back, then that 3rd meeting is gonna be an hour for me. Whether I take a walk, Netflix and chill, listen to music, unfollow negative people on social media. How about writing a not to-do list? We so busy writing lists about what we gotta do, not to-do list for the weekend. I'm not gonna let this person stress me out. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna take it off my plate. I'm gonna make time for me so I can recharge, because guess what? You're no good to yourself as a creative, as an artist, as a rapper, as a writer, as a singer. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Those lyrics won't come if you're not full rather. So you gotta replenish yourself every single day. So thank you, Chris, for bringing up self-care. Let me just go to the next 2 questions because I wanna be able to pull 2 more in.
Yes, my name is Bobby May, but as D1 said, your first name got to be John. You know, my name is John, and this year I lost 2 friends to suicide.
I'm
and
sorry.
I didn't, like, personally, one friend hit me up saying, hey, let's do something, and I did not pay attention until, like, when he passed. When I looked at the message, I said, oh, man, dang, and that really messed me up for a couple months. And I'm still going through it, you know, going to counseling and everything and just dealing with that. And then my mom, you know, she passed like 3 years ago next week. And me trying to understand this music and having people come to shows and all that other stuff. And then thank God for like one friend you know, he tells me the truth, you know. Like, you have to have somebody that cheerleader, that actually say, you know what, forget that. You're not Bobby May today. You're just John. So my question is, it's like, from a rapper side, executive side, from a counseling, and from a business side, how do you, like, just, you know, get that monkey off your back, you know what I'm saying, of negativity, and really just move forward, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know.
30 seconds or less responses. Okay.
For sure.
And then-
Oh, you want to go first?
Yeah, let's
I'll
Chris
make
and
mine
then
very
D.
brief because they're here to see you. I want to hear what you got to
No,
say.
they're
too.
here to see all
No,
of
I
us.
want to
Go
hear what he
ahead,
has to
Chris.
say as well. But no, literally, what you have to do is understand that what you're going through is normal. There's a grief and loss process. I would suggest that you look up Kubler-Ross. There's 5 stages to grief and loss. Understand that you may be going through part of the stage, and you cannot rush the grief and loss process. You have to go through it. Understand that, you know, several variables may impact how long it takes or what stage you're at, but please do not rush your grief process.
D1.
I would just say that life is a journey, bro. And just like any sports game has 4 quarters or 2 halves, that's the same way with our life. So anything that we're going through, it's just part of the natural progression of what we're all gonna go through. The thing is, we trick ourselves to thinking that sometimes that's the end for us. And I think understanding that a temporary setback is not a final destination is important. And understanding what makes you unique and special. When I started to realize what makes D1 and David Augustine unique and special, and I started to appreciate the things that are blessings in my life, bro, my whole life changed because I stopped focusing on the negative and just started focusing on the positive.
And I'll just add, I just lost my sister in April. Unexpectedly, she was on vacation with her daughter. I talked to her 5 hours before. I think she had a blood clot, and she passed away in like 15 minutes. When my dad took his own life, she raised me. She was there for every part of my life. I ain't married, I don't have kids. She's the center of my life. When I started to take my own life, she was the one that saved my life. And I'm mad. I'm mad right now. I'm in the anger stage of grief. That why I'm not blaming God, but I'm doing such heavy work. Now I'm in a fight for my life again because the one person that believed in me is gone. But I give myself time and moments to cry. That I'm crying in front of y'all, I don't care, I'm not embarrassed. Grief is a journey. Take the time that you need to heal. I'm in a grief support group right now, but I know that I'm gonna have my moments. I break down in meetings sometimes, and that's just who I am. You're either gonna love and respect me and allow me to get through this process and heal or not. And if you're not down with that, that's cool. If it makes you uncomfortable, I don't care. Because nobody knows my loss right now. Nobody knows what I'm going through and how hard life is for me. But it's a struggle to get up every morning and continue to do this work. Mental health is a heavy topic. But we're on a mission at Silence the Shame to save lives. So, brother, just take your time. And don't let anybody put a timetable on your healing, whether it's grief-related, whether you're going through depression and anxiety. Heal on your own time and keep people around you, like you said, your friend who's going to be honest with you. Keep the honest friends around you. We don't need yes people around us. In this business, we got a lot of yes people. But I want somebody to tell me no. Sit your ass down and take a nap. I want somebody to say, no, leave the studio, go eat, go to dinner, come back to the studio after you've gotten your rest. Those are the people you need around you, all right?
And I want to say this, you know, you're in the fight of your life. You know, we fight for our lives every day because of lies. Who told you you weren't allowed to cry? Who told you you couldn't be mad? Who lied to you? Because they're lies. Do you understand? Even as a doctor, even as a clinician, all we're doing is uncovering. Like, who told you you weren't allowed to be sad about your mom for the next 45 years? Who told you? It's a lie. You're allowed to. I give you the freedom. Poof, now you got it. You can be sad in here. You're allowed to. That's why we normalize the conversation around mental health, because somebody weird went around with a lie basket on, just throwing out lies, and we just put them in our back pocket. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me tell y'all something, right? If I could just be real candid, I got little boys. I got 3 little baby boys, right? And before I had them, you know, other mothers, I was like, why are you so extra? I mean, he's just a baby. He'll be fine. Let me tell you something. My child got sick, and the nurse was like, he all right. I literally, in my brain for a minute, blew up the whole hospital. I mean, I knew where to go get the bombs. I knew how to get out of jail. I was like, I'm going to jail. I'm going straight to prison today. You understand? Because I'm not going to be politically correct about suicide. I'm not. So I'm going to offend a whole lot of people. I'm not going to be politically correct about mental illness because my job is to help save your life. Do you understand? You don't want your doctor to give you surgery like, well, you know, this is your heart, but today we call it a beer thumper. Just, you the cardiologist saved my life. These are the fights of your life. The young man that went to the psych ward, these are the fights of people's lives. You have to fight to come back. So I just like to charge people, like we're not walking down the street, but this woman is in the fight of her life. Do you understand? The reason that I work with her and walk with her, and I'm not afraid of Shanti. I know she was big and she ain't bigger than me. I'm 6 feet. She can't beat me. She can't catch me. Do you understand? But she's in the fight of her life. So when this happened, ask Cameron. Now, where is she? Where is she at? Do I need to go to her? You know, not to be her psychologist, but because if you fighting, I'm fighting. Do you understand? So that's my charge. You know, you got that person around you. That's a blessing to have that person around you. If that person says, and it's not your fault when that person texts you. It has nothing to do with you. You just got a text. It has nothing to do with you. These are the fights of your life. You fight for your life, and you've already won. You see the end from the beginning. It's already won. She's already won. Do you understand? I done already planned her wedding and got her husband and got her kids. It's already won. Do you understand? That's all we do. It's realign. You hear me? All right.
Thank you, Dr. Stallworth. We maybe 2 questions. Last 2. Anybody else? Are we good? Okay. Stand up, please.
Okay.
It's on.
Hi, my name is Robin Lizette. I'm a songwriter. I'm studying entertainment business because I want to do artist management. But I also do social justice work. Earlier this year, one of my friends, Oscar Kane Jr., was shot and killed by a police officer. He was a community organizer, so a lot of us I've seen a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms, it's something that they're still dealing with and things like that. And so my question is, what are some coping mechanisms that y'all have used that have been helpful?
So we'll have D1 and then let you guys close out because this will be our last question, actually.
For sure. So number one, I would say find a community who can relate to what you're going through. It sounds like there's a community of friends who all knew this brother and can relate to the grief and the loss that you are feeling. You know, you're never going through this alone. You're never going through depression. You're never going through a tough time in life by yourself. If you try to isolate yourself, that's a trick of the enemy. Number one, I would say that. Number two, I would say, life, we all gonna die one day. All of us are going to die one day. So the thing about death is that we have to remember is just because it didn't happen when we wanted it to someone, it's inevitable that it's gonna happen to everyone. And I'm from a city where when people die, we second line in the streets and we celebrate their life that they lived as opposed to just focusing on mourning their untimely demise.
That's a beautiful thing, too. I respect that about your culture.
Yeah, we celebrate the life because who really has the perfect death planned out? That's not gonna happen. And that's the part that I would say is when you focus on the positive, and this is from a dude who done lost his best friend, got murdered, you know what I mean? Right in my hood where we grew up. This is from a dude who lost people in Hurricane Katrina. This is from somebody who death is a real thing that I've experienced. But I understand that celebrating life oftentimes is the best way to cope with death.
Indeed. Thank you so much for that.
And also, we have biological ones. Cry. Literally, cry a lot. Cry and go yell at a chair and tell him, you left me. You weren't supposed to die. I'm so angry with you. You have to actually experience. Your brain is looking to close the chapter. Your brain is like, well, if you're not going to experience the emotion, then I have to keep reminding you, send you an email, www.cry.com. What are you going to do? Because we do this, okay. And the brain is like, that's not how we do it. Do you understand? You have to cry. You have to emote. You have emotions. You are emotional. We are emotional. We're supposed to do that. And so when you don't do that, then your brain is now at conflict with your emotions because your brain is trying to preserve you. You have natural coping mechanisms on top of the one that we can tell you, but you have natural ones. Go run, go jog, yell, scream, go hug somebody, stare at somebody. Just sit there and just let tears fall out. You have to be what you are.
Thank you. And Chris?
One thing I will say, just to piggyback on what she said very eloquently, is you have to understand your emotion. right? We were talking about this yesterday. A lot of people was like, man, that really make me feel some type of way. But what is some type of way? Which way is that actually? You know what I'm saying? So once we begin to be able to identify our emotions, then we're able to develop coping skills to be able to deal with those emotions. So if it's saying that made me, and this is one that it's hard for us in the urban community, that hurt me. When we can say that hurt me, now you're no longer giving that power over you. You're saying that hurt me. You're pushing it on somebody else now to be able to, one, you're setting a boundary so they know what hurts you. But then you're understanding that hurt me. What is it that I can do now to protect, potentially, positively protect myself from being hurt? That made me anxious. What about that makes me anxious? Let me identify my triggers that leads to this anxiety. But if we don't, we just say, yo, that made me feel some type of way. I'm in my bag right now. What is your bag? Let's open the bag up and figure out where it's in there. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Therapist's worst nightmare.
The other thing I'll say is from a resource perspective, I passed out these cards. We have a keyword. You can text the word silence to 741-741 if you feel like you're in crisis. And it's free, it's confidential, and then they'll put you in touch with a clinician in your area. For me, from a grief perspective, there's an organization called Grief Share. So if you go on griefshare.org, it'll give you, you can put in your zip code, and it'll give you grief support groups all around the area. Also, check out our Silence to Shame podcast. Shout out to my co-host, Free the Vision, in the building, and to my staff, Cameron and Tanya, all the work that you guys do at Silence to Shame, and Devin. We love and appreciate you guys. But we have over 31 episodes up. A lot of information, y'all. I just interviewed, by the grace of God, Bishop T.D. Jakes. He was here for Tyler Perry this weekend. I don't know T.D. Jakes, but God placed it in my lap. And that's our latest podcast. And we talk about a lot from healing on there. It's a really powerful episode. So please take all of our cards. Follow us on social media. Let's give it up for Chris Simon, Dr. April Stallworth, D1, and I am your moderator, Shanti Das. Make sure you take time, save a life, and silence the shame. Thank you. Thank you, A3C.